Malaya and the baby were asleep. Lily came in multiple times. I was not in deep sleep by any means. And then about 20 minutes passed, and then when I woke up, Malaya was right beside me. She was still asleep. And I said, I don't hear Lily and Jack. I ran up in the woods to the kids. They have cabins up in the woods, which only took me like 30 seconds. I came right back down. She was on the phone with the RCMP.
That's Daniel Martel, and I think he's lying about his missing stepchildren. And it's not just because that story literally did not make sense. So in today's video, let's watch his CBC interview and count the red flags. I'm Deception Detective, an attorney trained in statement analysis. This channel exposes lies and manipulation. So if that's your thing, hit subscribe. For exclusives and other cool perks, join the channel. Link in description. If you have two versions of the same story, debunking one of them is pretty easy. All you have to do is look for contradictions. If there are any, they can't both be true. So before we grab our deception decks and break down Daniel's version of that morning in this CBC interview, here's Malaya's version from a month ago.
They happened to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet. And we get up and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? And he says, no. And we get up instantly. We're looking outside. We're looking everywhere, yelling for them. And I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call.
Malaya said she's the one who noticed the kids were gone and alerted Daniel. He said the opposite. Malaya said they both went outside looking for the kids. Daniel said he was out for 30 seconds and she called the police in the meantime. Those are interpersonal contradictions, or contradictions between two people's stories. And typically if one is guilty and one is innocent, the innocent person will point out the contradictions and be suspicious of the one who's clearly lying. So the fact that Daniel and Malaya haven't done that suggests to me that they're co-conspirators and this entire story is scripted. And there are plenty more signs of scripting and fabrication in that story. I've already pointed out a bunch of them in my previous videos in this series, which I recommend you binge watch if you haven't seen them yet. But there's plenty more in this interview itself, so let's watch.
A home deep in rural Nova Scotia, 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax, the last known location.
A lot of area to cover. We're out in the sticks here.
Not one, but two missing children. A dog that barks at everything, a mother who left on the second day, a father who hasn't seen the kids in 3 years, and a stepfather trying to piece things together.
It's been a long 6 weeks. I know that everybody basically in the world at this point is always wanting to know what happened.
The mystery of what happened to 6-year-old Lily Mae Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack William James Sullivan is indeed gripping the country and beyond. It is Friday, May 2nd. Martel and his partner Malaya Brooks Murray, the children's mother, are having a lazy morning with their baby. Lily and Jack are in the kitchen alone.
Malaya and the baby were asleep. Lily came in multiple times. I was not in deep sleep by any means. And then about 20 minutes passed, and then when I woke up, Malaya was right beside me. She was still asleep. And I said, I don't hear Lily and Jack.
The time, no one will say for sure, but police say it was around 10 a.m. when they got a 911 call.
I ran up in the woods to the kids. They have cabins up in the woods, which only took me like 30 seconds. I came right back down. She was on the phone with the RCMP.
There are a ton of problems with this story, so let's go through them one by one. First, as I already pointed out, it directly contradicts Malaya's version of events, which is typical of co-conspirators reciting a scripted story. A made-up stuff just doesn't stick as well in the brain as a real memory. Second, it's extremely vague, especially when it comes down to the timing of everything. For instance, he said that Lily came into the room multiple times, and then suddenly he's saying 20 minutes later he woke up. He woke up 20 minutes after what exactly? Third, the story just isn't reasonable, which is one of the criteria from the Assessing Stories card in my Deception deck, my 52 favorite rules for spotting lies and manipulation. If his story is true, Malaya called the police before they'd even checked the backyard to see if the kids were out there. Remember, he said that they noticed the kids were being quiet, he immediately went outside for 30 seconds, and when he came back, she was already calling the police. Finally, the tone of the story itself is off, another criteria from my Assessing Stories card. And by that, I mean Daniel's main objective here is to alibi Malaya. He made a point of telling us that he wasn't totally asleep and that she was definitely sleeping next to him when he woke up and she couldn't have crept off. But if his story's true, he can't be 100% sure about that. And what about these contradictions? Is he not concerned that her story doesn't match his? He doesn't even seem to be concerned that a kidnapper might have taken the kids or the kid's biological dad who's still out there somewhere. His sole objective, it seems, is to alibi himself and Malaya and express zero curiosity about what happened or request any help to figure out what actually happened. But it gets worse. Let's keep listening.
I ran up in the woods to the kids. They have cabins up in the woods, which only took me like 30 seconds. I came right back down. She was on the phone with the RCMP.
For 6 days, crews tackled an exhaustive search. The children's mother took the baby to be with her family in another part of the province. Her mother told CBC News the RCMP told them not to speak with news reporters. The RCMP says it just advised everyone to be mindful of the information they share publicly. On May 7th, police scaled back the search.
The probability of survival is taken into consideration.
But search crews returned for 2 more weekends until the end of May, searching wells, mine shafts, and septic systems, even flying a drone beneath the home.
The 4-year-old is wearing some blue dinosaur boots.
Police say they found a boot print. And listen to this in the radio chatter.
Families brought us to a location there, not far away, that there's a piece of...
We've analyzed plenty of innocent parents on the channel, and they talk to anyone who's willing to listen, even if it means that the public will dogpile them, or in the case of the parents of Dylan Ealer, who we've also analyzed on the channel, actually become the targets of fake ransom requests, which is just absolutely disgusting. So why do I say all this? Because Malaya and her mother are pulling the same trick that we've seen every other hoaxer pull on the channel, trying to tell the public that the police told them not to talk when their kid is out there missing. And even if the police did tell them not to talk to the press and ask for help finding their kid, which the police made clear that they didn't, imagine if they had. Do you think the father of Seth Rogers would have listened to that advice? Or the mother of Kyron Horman? Or the biological mother of Gannon Stouch? All of whom we've analyzed on the channel. Of course not. In other words, parents of missing children have to face a very unique dilemma which forces them to talk. If they go silent, like Malaya Brooks Murray or the mother of Sebastian Rogers, it basically confirms their guilt in the court of public opinion. But it does help them in the court of law, because the court of law has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they're guilty. But what about the parents who really care what the court of public opinion thinks, and are cocky enough to think that they can fool everyone in the public and even the police? Well, they keep talking. We're only halfway through this CBC mini documentary. If you want to continue analyzing it, let me know by liking, commenting, and sharing. Until next time, stay true.